Welcome in to DNVR Fantasy Live, presented by Draftkings Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app in the United States. If you haven't gotten on there yet, it's time. Make sure you're getting these bets in. It's going to be a whole lot of fun watching this Game 7 tonight with the Nuggets and the Clippers, and it's going to be even more fun with money on the line. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. All right, so I'm Henry Chisholm. This is Andre Simone sitting next to me, and the producer guy, Cassavan, is over at the bar. And today the plan is to run through everything we learned in Week 1 of the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to get to. And there's also a Nuggets game in like an hour and a half, so we need to fly.
Yeah, lots to cover, little time.
Do you want to just jump in with the Thursday night game, first game of the week?
Yeah.
So Texans and the Chiefs. Chiefs win pretty handily. What are your takeaways there, Dre?
David Johnson in 11 carries, 77 yards and a touchdown. Also gets 3 receptions for 32 yards. I'm buying it. I'm buying that burst. I'm buying how he was looking. I'm buying the fact that the Texans are invested to not look dumb after that DeAndre Hopkins trade and make him try to perform at his best. But really, I'm bearing the lead because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a beast and terrifying. And if you drafted him in your top 10, you're looking like a genius right now.
Yeah. Getting back to David Johnson, I'm already ready to eat the crow that I need to eat. You know, we still haven't seen the long speed. We haven't seen him in space trying to get upfield. It doesn't matter. That man, when he gets the ball in his hands in the backfield with his zone runs, like he's hitting the holes, he's hitting them hard, he's shifty, he's getting by guys. He doesn't need long speed. He just doesn't. And if that came back this season, I mean, we're yet to see it, but that would only add to what he can do for the Texans this season. Guy, do you have any thoughts on David Johnson? Or want to rub it in my face or anything?
Sure, yeah. I've been slow cooking this crow for you. It's nice and tender. We'll throw it on a bun for you. It's delicious. Wait, because, I'll be eating crow, too, with you, so I won't rub it in too hard.
Platters, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting, but at the same time, I will say temper your expectations because, as we've seen, there are a ton of injuries, and David Johnson has proven himself to be injury-prone in the past when seasons weren't so heavy on injuries. So as much as I'm enjoying it right now, I can easily see him going down with some injury in the next couple weeks. Then all of a sudden it just all blows up in my face. So I'll just take this small little victory for Week 1 and cross my fingers, knock on wood, whatever it takes for him to stay healthy.
Their problem, Duke Johnson, also hurt.
Yeah. So
we've got a wager related to this one for the whole season. Who's going to be the Texans' highest-scoring fantasy wide receiver? I took Will Fuller. Hank, you took Kenny Stills. Not looking great.
Nope.
Guy, you took Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, that's not looking as hot either. But at the same time, I mean, he wasn't fully healthy to start, so they're being cautious with him.
Right. And by not picking Fuller, you're banking that my dude's going to get injured in like a week, which always seems pretty likely. So even though Fuller had one big game, doesn't mean anything right now.
Basically, yeah. And I mean, Randall Cobb was out there catching passes too, so all of a sudden he's some sort of dark horse. I think Will Fuller...
I think he's fantasy relevant or could become so. I'm keeping an eye out for Randall Cobb, right?
Yeah, you have to. But when I see all these receivers with the Texans, I almost wonder if none of them are fantasy relevant. You know, because there are so many and they're stealing touches. I think Will Fuller is obviously going to be like the one guy who's going to be involved every week. But it might be one week it's Kenny Stills, the next week it's Randall Cobb, and there may just be a gamble. This might be a Patriots running back situation.
Right.
And I'm really skeptical of any piece of that offense outside of David Johnson.
I mean, to be fair, it was Week 1 and it was against the Chiefs, so we're drawing a lot of inferences from a very small sample size. I think that they really wanted to, implement David Johnson to that offense so they weren't running their full passing offense. And once Brandon Cooks comes back 100%, I think it'll look different. But yeah, small sample size. It's hard to draw any inferences from that so far.
Credit to you, Guy. I did feel like there was a theme this week of guys who don't need to share touches really benefiting.
Yeah.
It was the week of the Devonte Adams. Like, if you were banking on one dude getting all the touches because he was the only relevant dude, for the most part, that worked out for you.
Yep.
So,
we'll see. Speaking of, let's let Dre have the floor here for his feeding us crow session. Saquon Barkley, my God. Yeah, we gave you a ton of crap for moving him down from number 2.
Oh, my.
Again, it's only 1 week. But But
Yeah,
wow,
this
he
is
finished
really
with
like-
what, 5-6 rushing yards,
Dude,
and
it was insanity.
it says nothing about the talent of him as a player, but
No,
everything
of
about the
course.
mess that is that offensive line and that team.
15 carries, 6 yards.
Yeah,
but then all of
so-
a sudden, as soon as they start throwing him the ball,
Uh-huh.
he's hurdling guys, he's sprinting up the sideline, and it's still not enough to make up for not getting those rushing yards. But
Yeah.
you still do see like that it is Saquon Barkley, one of the
Yeah.
3 most talented backs in the league. It's just in terms of fantasy value, is he really a top 3 guy? I mean, Dre might be right. Where'd you have him, number 8 this season?
Yeah,
Something
something
like
like that. Crippled by that offense.
You
so
know what's
it's
funny
gonna
is
be
that
tough, yeah.
I mean, we were discussing this earlier, but on all of our
Yeah.
hates,
Our
on all of
start
our
sits,
sits,
yeah.
we just absolutely nailed it. And on all of our starts, I think we whiffed on nearly every single one of them.
Every
Chris
one of
Carson.
Yeah, I think that was probably the only one that
Truly,
that
like-
landed. But
And even Chris Carson re-looking at that, because that's probably the next game we should hit anyways.
go for it.
6 carries, 21 yards.
Before we jump in, can I ask you one more question about that Chiefs game?
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, incredible. 135 yards, touchdown, all that. He didn't look all that great by the goal line.
Oh,
Or should we
come
be
on.
should we
That
be
was the
concerned
offensive
about it? The
line.
question is, should we be concerned about it?
No, that was the offensive line just not really performing as well. I think that'll change going forward. I think that also the Texans give credit where credit is due because they have a pretty nasty defensive line and linebacking core, and I mean they kind of telegraphed that they were running those plays at the goal line. So I think that's again a very small sample size, and I think going forward you'll see things differently. And I think they'll use him a little more creatively because those plays that they were calling there were anything but creative. They're just trying to go up the gut every single time. And if you see him leaking out on screens, things like that, they'll get more creative to get him touchdowns. So
Well, with
I'm
these
taking no
rookies
stock in that.
too, man. There's just going to be a little more growing pains than we're used to. So
Yeah.
already him being at that level this early on, it's like it's all
That's
gravy, you know?
That's true. Okay, let's get into this Falcons game. Chris Carson, what are we thinking there? Is this an every week you got to start him if you have him? Is he matchup dependent? Because at this point, I'm sold on him being one of the guys who I want on my team, and I am not going to put on my bench.
Chris
I mean,
Carson,
with the
yeah.
6 receptions and 2 touchdowns that really brought it home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's kind of as advertised. Maybe not the most explosive. Maybe doesn't make you go crazy, but he'll have these solid outings where he'll warrant a borderline RB1 ranking. Todd Gurley in this game impressed me, though. Todd Gurley
Yeah.
impressed me.
Yeah.
Again, how long will this last? Who knows? It's a little Will Fuller-ish. But for now, I'm buying Todd Gurley in this Atlanta offense.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan Hamilton in the comments here. Guy, the only one taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the top 10. That was me. Thank you very much.
That was you, guy. That was you.
Yeah.
Also,
Good call.
it's early. I'm on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype train, as much as I hate to
Wow.
say it, but it's still early.
Yeah. What's our next game on the slate there?
Yeah, worth mentioning, Ridley kind of hogged all the touchdowns in that matchup.
Yeah.
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 Metcalf and Lockett, Julio and Ridley. Interesting how both split things pretty evenly. With those, you're kind of down to who's going to get the touchdowns. It just so happened Ridley was. Bills Jets, probably one of those we can move on quickly. Jamison Crowder, one of the best calls for us in the weekend.
Yeah.
Because, again, he fits that theme. There was no other competition. And Lev Bell, done, at least for 3 weeks.
Yep.
I don't
On
care
IR.
who else is starting in that backfield. Frank Gore did nothing for me, admittedly, against the stout Bills defense. Stephon Diggs, 8 for 86, better than I thought. I'm just reluctant to buy anything the Bills offense is offering.
This soundtrack we got going in the background is pretty apt for the Jets, is it not? It's the never-ending story of their futility. So
Pretty
I think
much.
this, honestly, as much as I am big on the Bills taking that division, I think this says a lot more about the Jets' futility. I mean, other than Jamison Crowder, I want absolutely nothing to do with that team.
Yeah.
As far as the Bills go,
Maybe
I don't know.
low-key buying Zach Moss. I mean,
heard
carries
good things
wise,
coming
he
out of
did
Kent.
nothing great, but he did get you a touchdown receiving.
yeah, coming out of camp, he had a lot of hype as well.
Yeah.
So definitely someone to watch. I mean, at this point, you're kind of you're a day late, $2 short if you're trying to buy on him.
Yeah.
I think that someone that drafted him already had high hopes for him, so
totally.
they're going to ask way too much.
Yeah.
So if you don't have him, you're kind of SOL. But yeah, he's definitely worth watching, keeping an eye on. Devin Singletary looks like he lost a step, so it's Zach Moss's job to take basically right there.
I'm with you, but you're right. Even though he's a wait-and-see talent, there's no getting in on him in any league. He's already been bought.
But it's also very hard for me to, I don't know, gauge the Bills on this one. Because like I said, I think this just says how bad the Jets were.
Yeah.
And I need to see the Bills play against better competition before I start really drawing inferences on how the Bills players played. So Josh Allen easily could have had a horrible game. But because the Jets are that bad, he looked really good. So.
And he put up fantasy numbers.
He did put up fantasy numbers. He also missed some absurd throws that an NFL quarterback has no business missing. But you're right. That's
Put
the
up
Josh
fantasy
Allen.
We're just here for the points, though. We're just here for the points.
Want to jump
You're
into
right.
Colts Jags?
Yeah, this was a crazy
All
one.
right. We should start this by saying Marlon Mack, torn Achilles, out for the year. Naheem Hines looked good behind him. Jonathan Taylor looked good behind him. Which one of those guys are, if you have both on the roster, you get to pick one to start. Who are you going with next week?
Between Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor?
It has to
Who are
be
they
Taylor.
playing?
That's a
Has
good
to be
question.
Taylor.
The Vikings.
Interesting matchup.
It is.
Yes.
Because those linebackers are good in
I was gonna
coverage, so
say.
you probably don't want the receiving back.
Their
Taylor,
front
what's
seven is a lot
impressive is
better.
he got 6 receptions for 67 yards. That's what carried his day for him.
I know,
Yeah.
which is funny because everyone called him just that ground and pound 3 down back.
And Hines is the receiving back of the two,
I know.
so it's crazy for real.
Yeah.
And I mean, Visca, man, for the Jags.
Yeah.
Are we scared as DJ Chark believers in Visca, or
I don't know.
is this an offense that
Visca's
can
opening
sustain
everybody
both?
up. Visca's opening everybody up. I think that as the Buffs guy here, I spent a lot of time watching what Visca did, and he obviously, as always, did everything. You know, they line him up at halfback. He was a wildcat quarterback. He was in tight the formation. He was split outside. He was in the slot. He scored the touchdown in the slot, which is where I wanted him.
I love the
draft
way they
pod.
integrated into that
Yeah.
offense. Even though he didn't produce otherworldly numbers in his first game, I love that they have a plan for him, and it
Yes.
looks like just so many different ways to get him the ball, and it's not just a unidirectional.
They have
sort
a
of thing.
role for him on every play, which is so rare for an NFL receiver. You know, we even saw
I'm kind of behind that offense.
I am too.
James Robinson's another guy. I'm keeping an eye on him in the waiver wire.
Minshew completed 19 of 20 passes.
No, Minshew was outstanding.
Yeah, he only had one
he's-
incompletion.
And when you watch his feet, when you watch the pump fakes, when you watch his eyes, that man is for real. And I am slowly becoming more excited for Visca getting to work in
Their
that
offensive
offense.
line looks surprisingly good too.
I know.
So that's what surprised me. I was like, "There's no way these guys have time to work," and I was like,
Totally.
"Hold up, why do they have so much time to work here?"
I'm in on the
also
Jags.
mega selling on Phil Rivers.
Yep.
And anything that Colts passing offense has to.
They're
man.
cooked.
They're
How many
done, dude.
wins did you call for them, guy?
I think 9,
Okay.
maybe 10,
I think it might have been 11.
11. I don't know about that. I think it was 10.
We can go back and check for next week when they lose
double
again.
check.
But yeah, I think I'm out on him. I'm out on him for sure, especially losing Marlon Mack. You know, Naheem Hines looked good and Jonathan Taylor looked good, but in terms of the running game, 22 carries, 88 yards, 4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. I mean, it's not bad, but with that group, you'd expect to do much better, especially with an aging Phillip Rivers as a quarterback. The fact that Naheem Hines 7 carries, 8 catches. Jonathan Taylor, 9 carries, 6 catches. I mean, if you're in a PPR league, then maybe buy these running backs is the point here, but I don't.
Good luck buying Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Naheem Hines should be available on the waiver wire, but
And grab him.
you're not getting
And grab
Jonathan
him.
Taylor. So,
Yeah.
I think, we'll see. But Laviska, to me, that was the storyline that I was looking at in this game because,
huge.
I mean, he was the only rookie wide receiver to have a touchdown in week 1, which I think is huge. I mean, you've probably seen it everywhere, but he never actually got tackled to the ground
No,
on
he
any of his 3 catches, which I think is hilarious because it just
stood
shows
up.
what we Buffs fans have known
That's
all
insane.
along when he talks about that game that they would play out in the street about
Yeah,
just getting
yeah,
knocked
yeah.
into fire hydrants and everything. He is a man amongst boys out there, and he's like the Derrick Henry of wide receivers where you see him barreling towards you and your life flashes before your eyes, and good luck taking him down. So just all the ways they're integrating him into that offense makes me very excited for that. So if he's for some reason available in your league,
Right.
I
if
think-
you're in a league with non-buffs, pick him up.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sneak him in this week.
Definitely do
Get
it.
that done.
Because I really think that as he progresses, I mean, he was in there an incredible
Also,
percentage.
if you
of
have
the
a vet
plays.
like Rivers, drop him and pick up Minshew.
yeah,
Do this
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
yep. Minshew. What about Burrow? Because I'm kind of feeling the same way about Burrow. Not Minshew is a step ahead. Minshew is clearly a step ahead. He
but I
looked
think
great.
you're on the right track.
But I think
buying that strategy too.
I'm totally in on picking up Minshew if you're looking for a guy. I might be in on Burrow.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You know what's great about this conversation, though, is this goes back to what we were talking about. If you don't get one of the top 2 quarterbacks, you wait. Because these are the guys that pop up on the waiver wire to help you win your league. You didn't have to draft these guys. And if you obviously, like Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, they both had very good week 1. So yeah, if you paid the price to get them there, you're happy with that.
Mahomes a little underwhelming.
A little bit, but I think that again, week 1.
Yeah, no, but
get the ball rolling.
like I think you barely cleared 20 points if you had Mahomes.
And I almost wonder if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to eat into his fantasy production, Mahomes' fantasy production. Now having a
some
real
galaxy
running
brain
game.
thinking, man.
I mean, because he
That's,
only had like 212
a
passing
crazy
yards,
theory.
and that's because Clyde Edwards-Helaire was able to carry the team when they needed him to.
and
That was just, I don't know.
when we were looking at Mahomes' fantasy value, this is a switch that happened from 2018 where he produced like 400 fantasy points
Yeah.
to 2019 where he missed some games, but also kind of found a groove where he was a little more conservative. That was great for the Chiefs, not great for fantasy owners though.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked a lot, or at least I have.
Maybe I would sell Mahomes. If you can sell high, now might be the time. I don't know.
I'd be tempted, but you know, I've talked about.
I mean, you should have never drafted him in the first place, right? So
Yeah.
trade him for an RB1. I know Guy endorses
These are
that.
some ludicrous takes, man. I think you're thinking too hard about it. This is a 1 week sample size that you're drawing all this off of. Mahomes has had 2 very good seasons before this, one of which was an MVP season.
It's true.
If you took the chance to take him,
Well, you're
just
not
hold.
Bailey now. Yeah, of course.
yeah, just hold. Like, there's no reason to be getting rid of him at this point because what you're going to get in return is like, it's just, I don't think it's going to be worth it, honestly. And there's too many other variables around the league that I'd rather have the constant of Pat Mahomes right here if you invested the draft capital.
And I kind of hammered this home when we were talking about the quarterbacks. But again, the difference between Lamar Jackson and the second best quarterback, who was Patrick Mahomes last year, in terms of points per game, was the same as the distance between number 2 and number 22. It's massive. But the 26 points per game that Lamar Jackson put up last year, that's the same as what Mahomes put up the year before. And it's possible that Mahomes will just bounce back up to that level after dropping off to, like, I think it was like 20 or so. With this, though, I'm starting to get skeptical. We should probably move on, though. Let's hit this NFC North stuff, starting with Bears-Lions. Obviously, what this game will be remembered for is
Do we have to talk
DeAndre
about this
Swift
game?
dropping the ball in the end zone with, 5 seconds on the clock? Would have won him the game.
Insane.
Oh.
Underdog bettors rejoiced all over the world.
Yeah.
Trubisky looked like maybe a fantasy factor yet.
We'll see.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't trust him personally. I think, again, this is one of those instances where
No,
it says more about the Lions defense than it does about Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, without Okuda. And Allen Robinson today took all mentions of the Bears off his social media because he's so frustrated with the team.
I would, too.
Doesn't
if I
sound
were
great
him.
to me. Montgomery kind of helped me in one league, but it was just because that's a point per carry league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not buying like anyone on here.
Anthony Miller.
That's been one of the hot names.
Yeah. He looks decent to me.
If you believe
He's
in
probably not
Trubisky.
available on your waiver wire because he's one of those guys that, he was getting some hype during the draft. So we're talking like, 11th, 12th round, something
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
someone going
He's
in that
gone
range.
in most leagues. And
But
if
you
someone
never-
wants to trade him, they're going to ask too much for
he might
him.
be a borderline guy. There are some leagues where he could be on your waiver wire.
Yeah, if you're in like
More
a
in
10-team
a
league, maybe.
standard league than a PPR league.
Yeah.
Likely because he is more of that deep threat type than a possession guy. And when it comes down to that sort of, I don't know, when a receiver isn't in those like top tiers and he's more in this Miller range, I do think that you have to really pay attention to league fit. And standard leagues, I don't know. I'd be willing to take a flyer if you're looking for receivers. Lions, no Galladay.
Underwhelming from
Yeah.
that passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, who bet their house on Kenny Galladay? Who would do that? But things do look good for Marvin Jones, though. So
Yeah, Hawkinson looked good. I thought Hawkinson looked good.
Sure. Yeah, we should mention Galladay, top 10 wide receiver. You guys have a wager on that one.
Yep,
Oh,
we're only
that's
one
right.
week in, so if you want to make your hot takes, make them
for
now
me.
before they cool off.
Adrian Peterson got the bulk, about half of the carries.
Yikes.
Put up 93 yards, 6.6 yards per carry.
Yikes.
Would you start him this week?
Scares me the touches Swift was getting, not even 100%. First game as a pro.
That's true.
I think Swift is slowly but surely going to dig into that, right?
Yeah, I agree. But I think I'd ride with Peterson. I mean, obviously, it depends on who else you have, but I think I'd ride with Peterson this week.
You sure Swift, after dropping that pass in the end zone to win the game, you think he's going to have the trust of the coaches to go back out there and take that full workload?
Jerry Jeudy.
I mean, yeah,
Not quite the same, but
You gotta stick
not
to it.
the same
Like,
at all. I mean,
yeah.
without KJ Hamler and Courtland Sutton, who else were they going to go to?
that's true. But I mean, I feel like it is similar in terms of the drops. And
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy they really believe in. And again, I think these rookies just need to be treated a little differently.
But they went
just
out of their
'cause-
way to sign Adrian Peterson when they didn't have to.
Right, because
So
I
that
think
says
they
something
thought
before the games even
Swift
started.
wasn't
And now,
ready.
now he's taken what little trust he had and kind of, floated
Yeah,
that down
yeah.
the river. So
No, in a redraft, I mean, he's not. This whole Lions offense really underwhelmed.
yeah.
Really underwhelmed.
let's
Which
move
is
along
disappointing.
to Packers Vikings.
A. Rodgers for real. He's
He
back,
is.
man. He's
Yeah,
back.
he is an all-time great quarterback, and he looked like it. And the drops too.
He
I mean,
looked better than he looked last year
yeah.
at any time.
And the receivers were dropping some balls. I think it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropped a touchdown, dropped another one, but still had a great day. And that's somebody who I kind of saw him as the number 3 coming into this season. But 4 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, big game.
Yeah.
Big game. And Thielen had a big game, which is nice. Dalvin Cook with the new contract gets in the end zone twice. But, Kirk Cousins owners, that's another guy you might want to bail on for a Minshew,
did warn
a
him.
Burrow, a Trubisky.
Or I guess that was Hank that warned them about Kirk Cousins, but yeah.
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
I don't know. Honestly, though, with how bad the Vikings defense looked, I'm actually a little more encouraged in that Vikings offense to, again, have that negative game script where they have to keep playing from behind, airing the ball out, and I think there's going to be more opportunities for a lot of guys there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that actually, Kirk Cousins didn't look, world-beating necessarily, but that's not really what matters in fantasy. It's about opportunity, and if there's going to be a lot of opportunity there for garbage time points, then the Vikings, for me, are a team that I'm keeping an eye on. So
Should also throw out there that in this game, Devonte Adams targeted 17 times, caught 14 of those balls, put up 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's only is he 1 year removed, 2 years removed from being the number 1 wide receiver in all of fantasy football?
I mean, he's the perfect example of a guy who garners all the attention and really did the most of it in week 1.
Yeah.
You got to like that. He doesn't have to compete for touches there, though.
Yeah, that is true. He will be the guy. And that's kind of what we saw skipping ahead a bit from DeAndre Hopkins. We were worried with so many receivers on the field in that system. Would he put up the same numbers?
what's this we stuff? What do you mean we were worried about this?
I made a mistake in my
Well,
thinking
he was
again.
the second wide receiver per ADP. None of us had him that high. I'm saying
that's
it right
true.
now.
That's
I
true.
can tell you I had faith in the Cardinals offense, though, and I
You
think
did.
that faith was rewarded.
Man.
It was. So
Yeah,
DeAndre Hopkins,
Kyler looked amazing.
16 targets, 14 catches, 151 yards, no touchdowns. I mean,
No, you're feeling good?
yeah,
You're loving it.
that's an incredible look. Meanwhile, behind him, though, no other receiver with more than 34 yards. That was Larry Fitzgerald with 34.
We'll see how the shares go. You're panicking?
I am panicking.
Oh, no.
As somebody who is invested in Christian Kirk, I am panicking. I think that the same concerns I had before with how many receivers are on the field, those still exist. I think now what we know is with that happening, a lot of the time he's still going to throw it to DeAndre Hopkins. It isn't the spread out look that would let Christian Kirk have fantasy value. And because it's DeAndre Hopkins getting targeted, 16 times in 40 passing attempts. That's close to half the time. They're typically in 3 receiver sets, sometimes 4 or 5.
Typically 4.
Yeah, typically 4, I guess, is fair. But that means that the other half of the targets are spread out among those 3 other receivers, plus the running back in the backfield. It's just It's just not a good situation. It's early, though.
Yeah,
It's early.
It's early. We'll see. They were also playing from behind. I'm not ready to panic just yet on the other Cards receivers, but I did start Christian Kirk in one league and regretted it mightily.
All right. With the 49ers, I think both of us, Dre, kind of projected a bit of regression. Now I'm kind of thinking, is this the last place team in the NFC West? Because all these other teams are really impressing me, and I think that
could still be a playoff team, though.
It honestly still could be a playoff team. In this offense,
Mostert was the big takeaway from this one.
Yeah?
Yeah. He got all the carries. He had the most explosive play. They didn't give him carries in the red zone, which you hate as a Mostert backer, but he still got his points. That's all that matters. That was huge. George Kittle being out definitely changed things in this one.
Yeah, and with Mostert, just under 4 yards per carry, 56 yards. He did have that 76-yard touchdown catch that really turned it into a big day for him.
Sure did.
In terms of receivers, I'm still not impressed.
Well,
when
no
comes
Debo,
back,
no Ayuk. I mean, yeah.
We'll see.
To do.
Let's see what's up next. Dolphins Patriots. This was a fun one. I throw.
Depends on your definition of fun, but yeah.
Cam Newton playing football to me is fun. That counts as fun.
Not a great game for
he's
fantasy.
Back, but let's see. Let's look at his line here real quick.
Yeah, 15 and 19, huh?
Yeah, and 155 yards.
Oh yeah,
with no touchdowns, no ints. He was sacked twice. But this is what I was telling Dre earlier. Sure, he got you those 2 rushing touchdowns, so he's getting fantasy points, but he didn't look threatening at all with his arm. And I think opposing teams are going to look at that film and know that they can attack him now. And I don't think he's quite the runner that he used to be. The Dolphins, I think, again, this is one of those games that says more about how bad the Dolphins are than how good the Patriots are. And I think that other teams are going to be able to game plan for this a lot better. And from what I was watching, his first read or his first option was always to run the ball. And if it wasn't there, then he had to back up and take a look at the receivers and see if he could find someone open. That's not going to win you games consistently. And it's great that he got you points in week 1, but I don't see that really panning out long term.
I think
all has to be written.
Yep, exactly. You got to wait and see. But what I do like is that with all of these running backs that they have on the roster, when they get down to the goal line, I think that option number 1 is a designed run for Cam Newton. I think option number 2 might even be passing the ball, and then option number 3 is going to any of those other running backs. And that, to me, in fantasy leagues where you typically get 2 more points for rushing touchdowns than you would with passing touchdowns, that could turn out to be valuable. And, of course, the 15 carries, if you're in a point-per-carry league, grab Cam Newton if that's still possible. It probably isn't.
Kind of hate all the running backs and wide receivers he's working with. Really underwhelmed by what Miami had going. Fitzpatrick not really being able to do the thing for Devontae Parker. We'll see this Miami offense against another defense that doesn't have this figured out just yet,
Yep. Okay, next up, Eagles and football team.
Football team?
Yeah, football team. Well, I was going to say what they used to be, but then I remembered, and I was like, I can't say Eagles in Washington because I guess nobody would have cared. But yeah, big upset. Probably the biggest upset of the week, with Washington coming back and putting up 27 straight points to win 27-17. Takeaways, Dre. What you got?
Backfield. Got to figure out these whole backfields because Boston Scott got hurt. We still don't know if Miles Sanders will be back. Now the Eagles are relying on Corey Clement. Their receivers are a disaster. And one of the more interesting backfields in the entire league is Antonio Gibson, who did lead the football team in rushing yards, but then Peyton Barber comes out of nowhere with 17 carries, 2 touchdowns, but longest run is 8 yards, barely has anything to show for it. Gibson does get targeted twice. I'm optimistic that this was a nice early sign for Antonio Gibson and how he'll be used.
That's how I'd read it too, but I'm still not willing to play any of those running backs until we actually see Antonio Gibson get more of the workload, which I think he's probably in line to do. It does scare me, though, that the goal line touches went to Peyton Barber. Because I think that
he did so little with it, though, that someone's primed to take his spot.
I don't know. When I was watching that game, I saw it more as like Peyton Barber is, he's the quote-unquote veteran.
Yeah.
And they saw an opportunity to win the game, so they went with the guy that they really trusted in that moment, and that's Peyton Barber. I don't think that says anything negatively about Antonio Gibson and his role in that offense because you saw them try to work him in a bunch of different areas. So I'm more optimistic about Antonio Gibson from this, and honestly, I kind of if there's someone in my league that has Antonio Gibson and they were scared away because of all this, I would try to buy somewhat like whatever you consider to be low on this at this point, because I think Antonio Gibson will have more of a role moving forward than Peyton Barber. I think it was just he was just a victim of circumstance in that moment where they saw an opportunity to steal a win from a division rival and they went with a trusted veteran. But I think that long term, that doesn't really spell disaster on this team.
Agreed. But I wonder what this process looks like, how long it takes. 17 carries for Barber, 9 for Gibson. And to me, I think that as this slowly flips and maybe even becomes more of a drastic gap than 17-9, I think it could wind up being 20-6 by the end of the year if the touches total number stays the same. I do think that Peyton Barber, the last touches to go will be the goal line touches for him. I think that you're going to see more of Antonio Gibson between the 20s, and as those kind of dry up, then maybe starts cracking in by the goal line. But, if Peyton Barber gets those touches and doesn't put up 2 touchdowns like he did this week when he had them, that could change. But as of now, that was where he was most successful, and so I think that's where they'd keep using him.
Honestly, my biggest takeaway from this game was just how horrible the Eagles' offensive line looked. Maybe one of the worst in the league. Even when Miles Sanders comes back from his being held out precautionary due to injury, I'm really worried about how he's going to perform against behind such a bad offensive line because, Carson Wentz had no time to work. Boston Scott had no time to work. Corey Clement barely had any time to work. And, that whole offense to me is just there's red flags going off all over the place because no matter how much talent you have on an offense in terms of, skill positions, if the offensive line doesn't give the quarterback or the running backs time, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I do think that the Washington football team's defensive front was very good, though. And I'd almost consider
Chase Young,
picking up that defense.
And Lynn Johnson, late injury, so, their best offensive lineman did get hurt early there. So,
Dallas Goedert as well. A guy I know you like, Dre, coming into this as a guy to watch and see if he does anything and then maybe pick up. Well, 8 catches on 9 targets, 101 yards and a touchdown. Are you picking him up now?
Well, this is all dependent on the wide receiver and running back situation. With him, with lots of wideouts out, then they're using a lot of 2 tight end sets, and Goddard's heavily featured, and
Ertz didn't look
borderline
impressive.
tight end 1. Oh, Ertz, it's not an either or. It's a Goddard on top of Ertz because they have no wide receivers or runners.
Yeah. Let's move along to Panthers and Raiders. Raiders pulled it out 34-30. Josh Jacobs looked very good.
2 best running back performances of the weekend. Easy breezy.
Yeah, that's true.
We probably underrated
Maybe
Jacobs and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
And if this Phil Lindsay injury keeps up, Melvin Gordon was also underrated. So the AFC West all of a sudden is kind of like the running back division that you're buying heavily after week 1.
I think of the 3 of us, I had Josh Jacobs the highest, as much as it pained me to say nice things about a Raider. And I think we covered that in our very first episode. I had Josh Jacobs pretty high, and I think I had him as high as maybe number 7. And he proved that.
Second most with 6 targets on the team, too. So on top of the rushing, on top of the 3 rushing touchdowns, gets plenty of targets in the passing game, which for him is huge.
Yep.
So,
and we'll see. I mean, the Panthers aren't a good defense, so as much as I'd like to take credit for calling him having somewhat of a breakout season, at the same time, it's 1 game sample size and temper some expectations there as well.
Yeah, and you brought up the targets. The only guy with more targets was Darren Waller. Those are two guys that if you have, you're starting with Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller. Behind them, though, these receivers are still kind of a mess. Henry Ruggs was the leading receiver in terms of yards, 3 catches, 55 yards. Nelson Aguilar caught a touchdown. That was his only catch of the game. You're just staying away, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in buying right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's just not.
There's just no signs anywhere.
There's better,
With the
bets to be
Panthers,
made
though,
otherwise.
Robbie Anderson went off.
Sure. He's their Henry Ruggs, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a boomer bust guy. If you have no other options and you just want a lottery ticket and he might get you a long bomb and
He had a 75-yard touchdown.
save your week, that's what Robbie Anderson is. Do not expect that anywhere close to on a weekly basis, especially with a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who's more going to deke and dunk you and kill you with a million paper cuts than
Yeah, I almost wonder if
slinging it deep.
because that is the narrative around Teddy, if the strategy for week 1 was, okay, we need you to go hit some long balls
Could be.
so that the narrative changes a bit and defenses will open things up a little bit underneath. So we'll see how that progresses.
Yeah.
But that offense didn't look bad.
No. They looked way more competent than I thought. With all the turnover they had going, I'd completely written them off this week.
Let's jump into a game now with a bad offense, an offense that put up 6 points, and that is the Cleveland Browns, who lost 38-6 to the Baltimore Ravens. Not really a surprise. You know what? I think there was a moment where I wanted Cleveland to be good. I think I bought into the Baker Mayfield hype. I liked what they were doing, and now at this point it's like, okay, let's just watch this dumpster fire go and then see what happens in 2 years when
Are you
Baker's contract's up.
Are you surprised about Nick Chubb though?
Well, now the game they were down big early. So I think Kareem Hunt, who's more their receiving guy, that's how he got more touches. Now you're going to say they're the Browns, they're going to be down early a lot. That's
Okay.
actually smart thinking, and yeah, you might be onto something.
Who could have predicted that, huh? Who in the world could have predicted such an outcome?
Yeah,
But I mean, where do you rank Kareem Hunt?
Oh,
that's the
man.
thing.
Like, the problem is they kind of fulfilled this concern I had where they're both like RB21 and RB23.
And on
Like,
a bad
neither
team.
startable.
And on a bad team, a bad offense that isn't running a bunch of plays. I mean, a lot of Bronco fans here, you saw last night, Noah Fant goes off in the first half, barely gets the ball thrown his way at all in the second half, if it even happened. And Vic just said, yeah, we didn't run any plays. We had 2 3 and outs in the third quarter. Nobody got any targets. That's kind of what I'm expecting from this Browns offense all season. And that production for everybody's going to decline, especially if this is a true 50-50 split, which is what it looks like it is for the 2 running backs.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be games where they'll sling it around because they're down 20 or whatever, but yeah, this was rough. J.K. Dobbins owners are happy, though, because Ingram didn't look great, and Dobbins at least gets you those 2 touchdowns. That should only continue. And Marquise Brown with 6 targets.
He's for real.
Doesn't get the touchdown, but still gets you 100 yards, so that's huge for their young former first-rounder.
Yep. Same thing, Mark Andrews, 2 touchdowns.
He's for real.
He's also for real.
He was
Willie
a
Snead.
bona fide top 6 tight end, as I
Like, the scary part about the Baltimore receivers is that they're so young, and you just wonder if Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay is going to pick it up as the year goes.
Oh, yeah.
But Willie Snead, I was impressed with as well. I think the fantasy value probably hinged on the touchdown. Yeah, but that's another one to watch because this is a very good offense, and I do think that he probably will emerge as a receiver worth having.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been productive before. I wouldn't count on it just yet on Willie Snead.
Chargers and Bengals.
Joshua Kelly.
Exactly. That's where I'm going. You got to pick him up. If there's a list of guys who you should probably claim. I'd throw.
He's taking that Melvin Gordon role in that offense, though.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. There are probably a couple guys I'd take in front of him, but Josh Kelly, 12 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown in his pro debut. I mean, yeah, he that's exactly right. He took that role and he looked good out there, and that's important too because there are a lot of guys who they hit a hole and it just works out for them. He looked like a real good running back, and I'm bought in.
And the rest of that offense is not good with Tyrod Taylor, so you might as well pick up the running backs. I was baffled that Austin Eckler wasn't involved in the passing game at all. So
1 target.
hopefully that changes. kind of similar storyline for the Bengals offense with Joe Burrow. Both these defenses played pretty well. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Yep. Yeah. AJ Green made a couple plays. Not enough to get real fantasy value out of him, probably. Would have put up 10 points in a PPR league, but he made some plays.
There's hype there, man.
He made some plays.
There's hype there, absolutely.
Yep.
I'm excited by that because I was calling him as one of those mid-round sort of like very high ceiling players. If you took the chance on AJ Green and you saw that, I think you're excited right now. Even if it didn't show up on the scoreboard necessarily, if you watched the game and you saw his involvement, you saw him out there running around and he didn't look hampered by any injuries, which when's the last time we saw that?
It's true.
I'm excited.
I'm
excited.
It's a little Wolf Foolery. I wouldn't get too excited.
Yeah, but if you have him, he's your wide receiver 3, and the ceiling on that for a wide receiver 3 it's pretty incredible.
I'm
so.
higher on AJ Green than I was coming into this game.
Wow.
I'll say that.
Wow,
for
that's such
sure.
a hot take,
For
Hank.
sure.
How about you just calm yourself down there?
Bucks and Saints. Saints win in
I
Tom
wanna
Brady's
bet.
debut, 34-23.
We actually split a bet on this game. I had that Ronald Jones would have more touches than Fournette. That was a landslide. You had that Brady would go over 20 points. I said under. Insanely enough, with that quarterback sneak and that rushing touchdown, you're able to survive. But
There we go.
I mean, and sell all your Brady stock.
Not only
Sorry.
did Ronald Jones have 17 touches to Fournette's 5, he also passed the eye test. He was running like a madman out there, and I think that as the season progresses, they're just going to start leaning on him more and more, especially because the passing game had some hitches. You know, Brady missed a couple throws. There seemed to be some miscommunications. Things weren't great in the passing game. 78.4 passer rating, just to put that into context.
Brady was awful, man.
Ronald Jones, I really liked what I saw from him.
Yeah, totally. He might be the only guy I'm buying in this offense. I know some people are high on Scotty Miller. Yeah, maybe. There's something there, but there's too many mouths to feed, and Brady is the same dude he was in New England. Period. Wasn't the wide receivers. It was Brady. So, and to me, Kamara really looked like he was back to being Alvin Kamara, which is huge because now Michael Thomas is out, so he'll be even more featured. So, you know, if you gambled on Kamara while there was a bit of, will he hold out for contract negotiations? Now you're really sitting pretty.
It's crazy that a running back, so he had 12 carries for 16 yards.
Yeah.
And still was a good fantasy play because he had 5 catches for 51 and a touchdown.
Yep.
And just imagine if he could have done something with those rushing attempts, and all of a sudden he's one of the top performers at running back of the week.
He was an inch away from another touchdown at the very end of the game, too. So
that is right. I will also say Michael Thomas out with a high ankle sprain. I think the tweet said several weeks is the expectation. It was worse than they anticipated.
That is rough.
Got to get it on Emmanuel
Anyone
Sanders,
who-
right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Got to pound that because he looked good too. I'm not sure what the stat line was. 3
Scored
for
a
15,
touchdown.
not great, but got the touchdown, so he would have been valuable. Yeah, I think he's going to keep getting more touches, especially with Michael Thomas out. Any other thoughts on this game?
Nope.
Okay. Did we cover Cardinals 49ers? We did.
Yes.
Cowboys Rams. Malcolm Brown. That man is the truth. I think that he
You
more
think
than
so,
Cam
huh?
Akers. You know, to me, Malcolm Brown was out there at the start of the game, and he was running hard. And as I was watching, I was thinking, wow, this guy looks good. Cam Akers better come out and bring it. And then you see Cam Akers, and you see he's a little more hesitant. He isn't just pounding forward in the way that Malcolm Brown does, which is what NFL running backs do. You know, it's that looking for contact almost that make good running backs really good, especially in schemes like the one that the Rams run. You know, you think back to like what Todd Gurley was doing, just running downhill, blowing guys up. CJ Anderson doing similar things. Cam Akers, that's just not who he is. And like, you can't blame him as a rookie first game being kind of like scared to just run full speed into the pile and take the hit. And I think he grew in that regard, but just didn't work for him the way that Malcolm Brown seemed to just know his game and really play well within it.
I mean, take these rookie performances with a grain of salt. It's the first time ever they're playing in NFL action. There's no preseason. There's no live action in practice. So I think the the carries being split 18-14 in Brown's favor already should be encouraging as an Akers believer.
Yep.
But Malcolm Brown should be available in just about any league you're in. So
He's my top pickup.
Easy ahead of Joshua Kelly.
Yep.
Okay, I like it. Amari Cooper, kind of a bust. Actually, it turned out Jalen Ramsey was more defending Gallup than Cooper. So my sit Cooper narrative didn't totally pan out. Aside from that, kind of as advertised. Nothing too spectacular in this one. Kind of disappointing. Frankly,
Agreed.
we talked about Steelers, Giants from a Saquon perspective. Benny Snell really stood out, though.
Yep.
Benny Snell's another top pickup going into this week.
He's on my list.
I'm out on Roethlisberger, though he had a good fantasy. His struggles with mobility and pressure are too big to overcome.
This is what I was saying, man. Yeah. I don't think the Steelers are going as far as people think they are, and I see Big Bren. Not if he's healthy, he doesn't look the same as he has been in years past, and he's also prime for re-injury. So
no, I'm bailing. I'm ready to bail. I've seen enough to know that much.
Are you bailing on Juju Smith-Schuster though?
I would try to sell him. Yeah, if you could. Not
in that Sutton borderline top 15 range I had him ranked coming into the season. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that pretty much.
Darius Slayton, of course, kills it, and now the Phil injury we got to monitor, and we'll see what happens with Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, you're forgetting one big game here.
And Evan Ingram.
Oh yeah.
Got to bring that up on my sit list. On Guy's start list.
Yep.
Let's just run through. I mean,
that's an L for Guy. Yeah.
That is an L. Where is this? He was targeted 7 times, 2 catches, 9 yards. It was kind of what we're saying.
Giants offense.
That they targeted him 7 times, and you'd think with Evan Ingram he's gonna bring in 5 of those, but he had drops there too. It wasn't even just the defense, and that's if I were you, that would be eating me alive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you were me, yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. I laid awake last night just staring at my ceiling, thought to myself,
2.9 points.
How could I be that dumb to put that much stock in Evan Ingram? And here we are.
Steelers offense, very, very, very good. Defense, rather, very, very, very good.
I thought we were just totally changing tracks there.
But, I mean, do not buy into the Giants offense one bit.
Yeah. Daniel Jones looks solid.
What are you saying? He looked like trash. He's trash.
Oh, okay. Daniel Jones is trash.
He's going to be benched by mid-season. He's awful. Okay. No, I mean, I did think that interception was funny. He did
the one where he just lobbed it up there. He was getting hit. And he
just
flame ducked it up there, and about 7 Steelers players were underneath it.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
I do
remember that one. That's right. One more game. We can make it quick. The Broncos lost to the Titans 16-14, if you hadn't heard. It sucked. Jerry Jeudy dropped some passes. There were some mistakes with the timing of that, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the fantasy perspective. Derrick Henry, workhorse. I mean, the weird thing is the Broncos kind of shut him down until they were able to just pick him apart behind
31 carries, the long of 13. This was not Derrick Henry. This was the Broncos offense not staying on the field long enough to keep Derrick Henry off. That's where fantasy owners should be upset. Melvin Gordon's really intriguing now with this Phil injury.
It's true.
I'm going to keep saying it. And Noah Fant, believe the hype. This was huge. Obviously, without Sutton, changes things a lot. Corey Davis is the other big storyline here is Corey Davis really played well, and as an A.J. Brown believer, I am a little concerned.
Also, Jerry Jeudy. He's going to be a wide receiver, too, in fantasy here pretty quick. He looked good. I mean, there were the 2 drops, and you have to factor those in. You can't just say, what happens if without those? Then he catches what?
No Sutton, no Hamler.
6 passes for 85 yards, and maybe he breaks one and runs the ball for more. And
but there was no Sutton and no KJ Hamler. You didn't really have any competition there.
It's true, but
Tim Patrick was the other.
I'm not looking at that as competition in this case quite as much, because I think if you do have a Cortland Sutton out there, then you just run so many more offensive plays than they had. They had 6 offensive plays in the third quarter yesterday. that means that basically you're losing out on 25% of his production for Jerry Jeudy. So you got to factor that into. I'm in.
I wouldn't panic as a Jeudy owner if you want to buy low on him right now. Not a terrible idea. Yeah, I don't think much changes for Jeudy and my outlook of his at this point.
All right. Well, that does it for running through all the games from this week. Before we get into a bunch of the questions that we have gotten, let's talk a little bit about DraftKings Sportsbook. As I said earlier, DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 rated sportsbook app in the United States for so many reasons. I mean, we haven't even talked about this because betting has been legal here for so long. But I remember the first month or so of having legal betting and having this partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the conversation was like, oh, wow, you can trust these guys. Even during a pandemic where all the sketchy offshore bookies that aren't technically legal, you can still bet with them, but with all the weird things happening in sports, you may not get your money back if things get wild.
Right.
They don't have to follow the laws like legal sports betting sites do. And that's not something we've talked about in a couple months. So I figured we'd throw that back around. Dre, do you have a good bet for us tonight on
Nuggets plus 285, baby.
I like that. You
Money
didn't even
line game 7.
You didn't even go for a prop or something like Jokic, no matter what, whether they win or lose. No, just take them to win. It's great value. Love that.
Yep.
You can download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code DNVR when you sign up to get where is that? For a limited time.
There you go.
I'm missing the offer. Oh, it's up there now. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up for a limited time. All new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook has a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Don't forget, enter code DNVR and get your sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Okay, that was a mouthful. Let's jump in with these questions.
First question, and this is from LA Bronco 30. He was hoping we'd get to it before last Sunday, but I think it's still relevant. He was debating whether to start Matt Ryan or Cam Newton. Now that we know a little more about those two quarterbacks, Cam and the Patriots play the Seahawks. Matt Ryan and the Falcons. I just had this and forgot.
I'm just going to jump in here and
the
say
Cowboys.
Yeah, Matt Ryan.
All the way.
I'm going Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I don't think it's even that close, regardless of the matchup. And
I thought you guys were going to
like
take
the
Cam Newton. I was a little
Seahawks.
worried there. So I was
like
going to say
the
the
Seahawks
they know how to play against whatever it is that the Patriots are trying to do there with Cam Newton, and they're going to swallow him up. It's not going to be. He's not going to have anywhere near as much time or room to work as he did against Miami. I really am. I'm fading Cam Newton for this week.
You don't need to be such a Cam Newton hater. You can just say, Matt Ryan's better. He's got better options. You don't need to completely break Cam Newton down and tear his performance from this week apart. He looked pretty good. But
you're right.
My answer
to start Cam Newton.
He's going to look better.
We're going on. No, I don't want to do that. I can't do that.
As
much as I want to, as much as I'm a Cam Newton truther, it's just too soon. You got to see him put the production up again, especially because the 2 rushing touchdowns.
That's not Cam
can't
Newton.
bank
It's the
on
offense around him. He has no wide receivers or running backs.
It doesn't change the fact that his prospects don't look good. So
no, it does change the fact. It means that his prospects don't look good because there's no talent around him.
I'm just saying. We're just talking about, do you want to start him? Yes or no?
Oh yeah.
That's just a different reason why you wouldn't want to start him.
Yeah,
you do.
And I'm a big fan of Matt Ryan and the Falcons anyway. I think they're going to win the AFC South. So
we love Matt Ryan
ahead
on
and
this
at me
show.
for that take.
I too said that, and after week 1, I'm a little more skeptical, but we're sticking by it. We can't change things.
I do. I think that the Seahawks are just a really good team. So that was a tough week 1 matchup.
Could be.
Can we put a bet? I'll take the Patriots to win. You want the Seahawks?
Yeah.
We haven't had enough bets. There's one.
Okay. What? Really? Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, by the way, what are we wagering on these bets right now? Shots?
No, we don't have to wager anything other than our egos. That's what this is. all about, or our reputation.
Well, I do have a pretty good ego, so there's a lot to go around.
Yeah. I think next question, Dre. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, I'm taking down notes for our wagers. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
what
right.
up, guys? Fantasy Now and DNVR. This company is the best. Anyway, I had a starting question and also wanted to know what you guys thought of my squad and how I could improve it. It's a standard 14-team draft. He has Stafford QB1, Drake running back 1, Austin Eckler running back 2, Juju wide receiver 1, Terry McLaurin wide receiver 2, Noah Fant at tight end, Cam Akers as the flex, Broncos defense, Brandon McManus as the kicker. On the bench, he has Zach Moss, Michael Pittman, Tyler Boyd, Jerry Jeudy, TJ Hawkinson, Laviska Shenault. This is definitely our kind of listener. TK
Yeah.
Freeze, what up, TK?
Yes,
I honestly can't
Oh,
even think of
yeah,
a way to
that's
improve
TK
this team
Freeze.
right now. This is what, a 10-team
Miss you in
league?
the Madden League.
14.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're sitting pretty, man. I can't help you, honestly.
Standard league. What do you guys think? Wasn't exactly what I wanted, but if some of these rookies hit, I got a chance. Super fast. Here's my questioning. Fantasy is telling me to bench Cam Akers because he's listed as RB3, but from what I was reading in training camp, he was RB1. Obviously, this was submitted. Anyway, should I bench him? If so, for who? Boyd, Moss, Jerry? Thanks, guys. Fantasy is pod is awesome. We really appreciate you, TK Freeze.
That's
I guess
tough.
I'd be undecided between Zach Moss, Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault.
I would say LaVisca.
I think I'd ride Visca, too. I think I'd ride Visca. What's the matchup this week?
Sutton would be my. If Sutton is still out, which none of us are hoping for,
Right.
that's a situation where I would consider
Jerry Jeudy.
Jerry Jeudy. Though again, that Steelers defense. Who did the Jags play?
Titans. On the road.
That Titans
Hey,
defense didn't look that
I know.
impressive.
Feast
I
on
know.
the Titans defense. They've got injuries at corner and stuff.
And they always
Go Visca.
those two teams
Go
always
Visca.
always have high scoring games, and they're always wacky. And I think that
No,
when
no.
you talk about Jerry
Go
Jeudy
Visca.
and you have all these
Go Visca.
different you have all these different contingencies around like whether or not you take him. With LaVisca, there are no contingencies. He's playing this team and he's ready to go. You take him. Whereas with Jerry Jeudy, it's dependent on all these other things. I'd rather stick with the sure thing. So
Totally, especially because the Titans don't have great depth. They've been injured at cornerback. This is a great matchup to feast on week 2. Go
Yep.
Visca all the way, baby.
That's right.
Beautiful. That's it for our questions.
All right. Well, does that mean we're done?
I think that about does it for the show. Yeah.
Any parting thoughts, anybody?
Well, we have our tailgate on Sunday mornings, so
yes.
tune in for that. We're doing that 9:30 a.m. until 10:55, right until kickoff. We have a segment of our fantasy show that goes on there, so we'll address some sit-start stuff. So if you are a member and you have
Last-minute
questions, make sure to throw those either in the Discord or on the podcast on our website, things like that, and we'll get to those. And we'll address some sit-starts. We also cover, just the full slate of games with RK on Sundays as well. So be sure to tune in for that. Come into the DNVR bar and, watch the games, have fun. Obviously, Nuggets Game 7 is tonight, so kind of SOL on if you wanted to show up for that because that sold out within 7 minutes. But when the Nuggets win Game 7 tonight and the Western Conference Finals happen, we'll be having more watch parties for that as well. So check out the DNVR bar for all your sports watching needs as well. And that's about all I got. You guys?
I think that pretty much covered
That's it.
All right, that's going to do it for today. If you guys have any questions, as always, you can hit us up in the DNVR Lounge. There's a fantasy channel, or also just leave comments on the post for today's show at thednvr.com, and we will get to those next Tuesday when we see you again.